Hello and welcome to Handmade Originals, the YouTube channel where I tackle a huge range of creative projects in the hope of giving you confidence or even inspiring you to have a go at whatever particular line of creativity interests you. All very different, so not everything will interest you, but I hope that you'll see there's a commonality of all the projects, which is the thread of creativity which runs through them all. It's something which incidentally the algorithms that run YouTube do not pick up on. So if you are interested and want to subscribe to this channel, please tick the all box so that you see all of my videos, and I don't publish that frequently, so you're not going to be bombarded, because otherwise, if for example you subscribed when I was doing a video on how to make sugar crafted flowers, you will not have received any of my other videos because I only ever made one video on how to make sugar crafted flowers. So please tick the all box if you're interested in creativity, and then you'll get everything and you can pick which ones interest you. By no means is it obligatory to watch all of them, and give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. Right, today we are going to be tackling, or I'm going to be tackling, what is actually quite a sentimental and emotive project. A very good friend of mine, let's hope I can get through this, a very good friend of mine died about 5 years ago now, and her daughter, sorry it's a bit fresh, her daughter got married afterwards and is due to have her first baby in about 3 or 4 weeks' time, and has recently started asking her dad for things for the baby which have been kept in storage. And one of the things that she wanted was her own original baby blanket, which my friend had made for her. So it's about 25 years old. Unfortunately, when we got it out, it's quite deteriorated. So her father has asked me to see whether or not I can restore it. So first of all, let's have a look at the current condition that it's in. Right, this is the side where it is most worn, I think, and you can see that a lot of the seam here has come apart and the fabric has actually worn through and ripped. So I can't reattach it like that because then it will make this whole piece too small. And this is the same on the corners here. In fact, all of this has come apart and all the way around here as well. So the other problem is that all of the frill around the edge has started to come apart as well. So my thinking is, what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'll make a binding to go around the edge here all the way round. Oh my goodness, her mum put a lot of frill on this. So her mum, who by the way is called Nicola, was a great one for frills. So there's an awful lot of fabric that needs to go into that. But with this part here, I think what I'm going to do is cut these worn edges off. So I'll have one piece which is smaller than the under blanket, which has to be attached to, and then I'm going to sew this central part, which is too small now, onto another piece of fabric which will be the correct size, so it appears to have a border all the way round, and hopefully that will sort of match in with the patchwork seam. My initial thinking was that side is pretty much all right on the edges, apart from 1 or 2 small holes in the main body of the fabric. So my initial thinking was, I'll cover this with a new fresh piece of fabric, and then I reflected on it, and because this might seem a bit mad, but because my friend made this, I've been chatting to her while I've been thinking about how I'm going to tackle it. I decided that actually, rather than putting a fresh piece of fabric on this side altogether, the aim of this project, because sadly Nicola is no longer with us, the aim of this project is to keep as much of Nicola in it as possible. So first thing, I need to get some fabric to match, and I'm going to go for this pink here. So the first thing is to try and get some fabric to match that, and my thinking is I'm going to try and just dye some that colour, because why not? Then I have more control over exactly what colour it comes out. So I'm going to, I've got some white fabric, I'm going to throw it in the machine and keep my fingers crossed, and then we'll see what colour it comes out. Right, so I've got my, oops, it's falling off the table. I've got my newly dyed fabric, and I'm quite pleased with the colour it's come out. It's, I think, sufficiently close to this sort of pinky peach which is here, so that it won't jar too much and jump out as fresh fabric, but will hopefully complement what we've already got here. So the next thing I have to do is to unpick all of this so I can take this off, trim the edges and mount it on the new fabric which I'm going to introduce. Nicola has used extremely tiny stitches to sew this on, so I'm going to have to go around and unpick everything as much as I can, which is not the most interesting to watch, so I will come back to you when I've done it, which I think will probably be in a couple of weeks' time at this rate. Anyway, I'm going to plough on and I'll see you in a moment. And finally we have, ta-da, two separate pieces. Right, so this is the side that's not too bad with the frills that need sorting out, and that's the inside, and then we've got, this is the piece that's all tatty and damaged around the edge. Right, before I attach this to my new fabric, so that's going to go on top like that, which actually makes it all look a bit pinker, which is nice, so it matches the colour a bit better. Before I do that, I'm going to just quickly iron this so that when I do attach it, it's nice and flat. Now, if it wasn't entirely clear before, this is my cunning plan. The edges on this side, as you can see, oh, perhaps you can't see there, but maybe here, they're completely tattered and frayed and have kind of quite a few holes in them. So what I'm thinking of doing is cutting off the edges. This is a patchwork pattern, so I can take it to the edge of the boxes, like so. And then sew round here, and maybe across some of these lines here to keep the two fabrics together, and then have this border going round, which will then attach, this fabric will then attach to the edge of the blanket where the frill is, so that it will sort of be in keeping with the pattern. It will just be that central part from the original blanket with this border, which I think, actually looking at it, blends very well in with that, and it also gets rid of all of the tattered edges. Right, so I'm going to put that together and we'll see what that looks like. Right, moment of no return. I'm going to cut the surplus border off, and then I'm going to keep the surplus fabric to repair any little holes that I find. Here we go. Going back now, that is all of the holy bits, and the rest of the holy bits here I'm going to remove. And then there's only one way, and that's forwards, onwards and upwards. Now, I'm not a keen patchworker, but Nicola was, and I know that people that do patchwork are very precise about measurements, so copying my dear departed friend Nicola, I am measuring this border absolutely precisely in the hope of making it look as perfect as I can. Hope she would be pleased. I have, as you can possibly see here, I've attached this bit to the new fabric so that when you look at it from the other side, you've got what appears to be a nice border. I've tried to match the thread, and now I'm going to sew it. I've pushed all the frill in, and now I'm going to tack it down and then sew it onto the other side. Then I will debag it, which is basically where you turn it inside out, and hopefully, if I've worked it out properly, the frill will be on the outside and we'll have this fabric on one side and this fabric on the other side. Right, I'll have a go and then we'll see what it looks like. Right, so here we have the moment of truth. It's actually called bagging out. I think I called it debagging, which I'm going to stick with because it's funnier. Right, we'll turn it round. Take the pins out. I'm pleased with that. I am pleased with that. And then when I have put the binding on the edge of the frill, I think that will freshen the whole thing up, but keep as much of the original as we're able to preserve. I'm going to finish the bottom edge by hand, where I bagged it or debagged it, whatever the correct terminology is, and then I've made some binding. It's not bias binding because there are no curves here, it's all straight lines. And then I'm going to just go around the edges like that to cover all these frayed bits here. I don't know if you can see. Look, it's frayed and torn on the edges. So I'm just going to bind the edges and then neaten it all up, and then it's done. Yay! Then we just need to put it in a presentation box and give it to my friend's very pregnant daughter. I hope will be really surprised and delighted. Right, we're on the home straight. I have put some extra wadding in here because the previous wadding had been washed and was kind of like really flat. So this has just given it a little bit of extra thickness. And the final thing to do is I'm just going to hand stitch this bottom seam here where it's been bagged out. And then I need to, having said that's the final thing, that will be it finished. But there are a couple of little marks on this original fabric, and I'm just debating whether or not it is robust enough to go on the delicate wash in the washing machine. So I'll be considering that while I do this final seam. And finally, all the sewing is done, and the blanket is now, or bedspread, eiderdown, whatever you want to call it, as she used to call it, blankie, actually, is now wrapped up rather inauspiciously in this big IKEA box, which her dad and I thought would be a really kind of fun surprise because she really wouldn't be expecting it. So I'm going to pretend it's just some sort of shelf or something for the baby's bedroom, and then she'll open it and hopefully get an absolutely lovely surprise. Her dad and her brother came round to have a look at it yesterday and thought it was lovely, nearly saw two big men cry. Let's hope she's thrilled with it too. It has given me lots of memories of her mum while I've been sewing it, not least because as I took it apart I found Nicola's tacking or basting stitches underneath. So I hope that she would be thrilled with this. And if she isn't thrilled with this, I also made something extra, which is very much in Nicola's style, which is this. And I have two pictures which I've hand drawn from the blanket itself. And then this extra one, I've just put a little bit of Nicola's face in the front. And I put this great big bow with the ribbons hanging down at the back behind it because that was very much Nicola's style, and I hope that her daughter loves it too, if only because it reminds her of her mum. And that's it. Now I'm taking it to her this afternoon and we'll see what she thinks of it. I'm going to give her this one first, and I'm hoping that she recognises the little pictures which were taken from the blanket and then thinks, where is the blanket, because Dad hasn't produced it yet. And then, ta-da, I'll give her this shelf and we'll see what she makes of it. I hope she's thrilled.